Hello, my name is Lishwan He, and this is my sign name. Welcome to a Deaf What interview. We're interviewing Jasmin Simpson today, and this is their sign name. They're joining this Deaf What project. Can you tell me more about who you are? Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me here on the show. I was born in South Korea, adopted as a baby at 16 months old. I grew up in Toronto, and then I went out of the country to stay in Washington, D.C., Virginia, and Maryland for 8 years before I came back to work, which is what I have been doing until now. How did COVID impact you? The moment it began in the first year, I felt awful. With my health, I was high risk because I have lupus, so I had to be vigilant. About a year or two later, I eventually got used to the change. I did recognize the detrimental impact it had on people's mental health. Is your health okay now? Do you feel better? My health is fine. Life goes on. That's good. I remember in the beginning, in the first year, I was on medical leave for a while. I went back to work almost a year ago, and as things went on, my health seemed to improve. That sounds like good news, being back at work. Absolutely. I work from home, and things have been going well. We know that you were adopted and come from a large family. Can you share more about that? Yeah, I have a large family. I have around, well, really the number has changed over time, how many siblings I have. In other interviews, I've said different numbers. When I was young, I remember counting how many siblings I had. I'm the 24th child. I'm the youngest. I'm the only one who is deaf and blind. The rest are hearing. My family is diverse in race and levels of disability. I'm sure you've learned a lot from your large, diverse family. Yes, really. I grew up used to the diversity. There was never any hostility. It was the exposure. Everything was normal. I can't envision what that would be like. I'm an only child. I don't know what it feels like to be in a big family, always bustling with energy. Yes, I'm really grateful. I loved having many family members because we were always playing outside with the constant socializing. It was terrific. I didn't always want to have a big bustling family every day because it had an impact on communication. Not all of them knew how to sign. Some did sign. It was tough. But what was a grand time was the playing. I tended to play with my brothers often. Most of my brothers played ball hockey often, if not every day. I loved being outside. When I was a teenager, my siblings started moving away from home and the numbers started getting smaller. I was so sad, but luckily by that time I transferred to a deaf school, so I had the opportunity to socialize more. Still lucky compared to my situation. I know being an only child isn't easy. Yes, knowing that you want a sibling, but sometimes it's nice being spoiled too as an only child. Sometimes I wish I was an only child too, sometimes. With my mother on flights, it felt like I was an only child. She was a lot softer with me. It was different. She was strict at home with my siblings. I understand though, as a mother having to keep control and manage such a large family. That makes sense. It's less work for her. Yes, right, exactly. Next question. You said your mother was a role model to you. What did she teach you? My mother had an enormous heart and is a humanitarian. She founded over 500 orphanages in South India and Bangladesh since the 1970s. She has never stopped working and still continues to volunteer to this day. Is she still doing it to this day? Yes, she's still doing it even at age 85. She's still doing it. She's a role model to me, and I genuinely look up to her. Of course, I also have a big heart, and I'm a humanitarian. I'm a big advocate for animals. I can see a dog in the back. It's so cute. Yes, there, and another one, see? So cute. They always like to take over the corners of the couch, and I have to sit in the middle, with you in the middle, always. So sweet. You recently went to court and won a case. Can you say more about it? Yes, I am thrilled. My case won, and it's over now. I've been fighting it for over 16 years. What is this case for? Wow, 16 years. Over 16 years. The case was for student loan debt. The issue was that when I went to Gallaudet, I didn't complete my undergraduate year in one run. I was very ill and I had to take a year off before returning again. My student loan debt interest kept increasing, and it should not have. That was discrimination. Also, in general, a student without a disability goes through school easily, without need for accommodation and accessibility. While people with disabilities would need accommodations and accessibility, like interpreters, note takers, large print text, etc. It takes students with disabilities longer than students without disabilities to complete a program. In any colleges across Canada, Gallaudet, NTID, RIT, doesn't matter. When you take a longer time than usual to complete a degree, your debt stacks up. It takes you longer to pay it off. So your goal was to dismiss the accrued interest? The goal is to recognize the discrimination in student loan debt being increased when it shouldn't. It should be equal. For example, when an able-bodied student studies for a major in a year and a half, while a disabled student takes 2, 3, 4 years, a much longer time, it should be cost equivalent, and any additional excess in payments the longer studies take should be refunded. Help lessen some of the burden on the student loan repayment. Many people with disabilities don't have the opportunity to get a job after graduating with a bachelor's degree. That's one example. That is the reason why I was fighting for it in court. Not for just people in Ontario, but for all of Canada, and not only for deaf people, for anyone who identifies as deaf or a hearing person with a disability, anyone who self-identifies as disabled. My case is now over, and next up is a class action suit. I can't discuss more about it. It is better to contact the lawyer associated with the class action, Laura David Baker. You can contact them. If you're not sure, you can contact me and I can give you their email address. It's important to know if you meet the criteria in the class action. It's similar to my case in court. I'm not involved in this class action though. For you, for all of Canada, I urge you to get involved. The case you recently won, does this mean it will be in action for all other students? Or will deaf students still have to pay a larger debt? Yeah, that. In what I recently said, my case is now over. I urge folks in Canada to contact the lawyer for the current class action to have some money refunded. In some cases, it won't happen. It depends if you meet the criteria for a refund. I encourage any Canadians in 13 provinces to contact them. I myself still have debt. It's good for me to keep this great information in mind. Contact them. Thank you for your time and energy in fighting this case, too. Thank you. The main goal in fighting this was for student debt to be lessened. I did also fight a particular thing that happened in 2010. Interest was still increasing until after 2010 when they stopped it. Then the government was paying the interest. They changed the terms, but I still wasn't satisfied with it because it didn't meet my part. I continued to fight it in court until my case was finally won. The class action happening now is perfect. They can apply the class action to my case, making it less work and easier in collecting evidence. What made you persist in fighting this case? I believe that any disabled children that have dreams for their future, be it education, a job, or their passion, should be allowed to achieve it, not cut off and they're stuck. Also, student loan debt is burdensome. They shouldn't have to deal with it. They can also end up having barriers and bad credit from the loan. It's not fair to them. Things like that made me persist. I feel grateful that you dismantled that barrier. I've experienced a lot. I've been through a lot. I didn't want that to trickle over to younger generations to go through too. It had to be stopped. Thank you for that. What gives you joy? I feel joy from traveling. I really, really love when my boyfriend and I drive on road trips. I really love taking in the views. I would rather drive than take a flight. More views of nature. Airplanes are conveniently fast. Yes, short and fast, but at the same time, driving on road trips has breathtaking views. You can pull over and check out different places. It's interactive. That's what I love. There's no limits to it. You can pull over and improvise your trip. Yes, that too. Do you have any thoughts you wanted to share with the hearing world? Yes, I'm thinking. For some time, I've seen hearing people who learn ASL then go on to teach hearing audiences the language. This is not okay. Positions for teaching ASL need to be kept open for deaf folks. Deaf folks have degrees and the lived experience of deaf culture and ASL that qualifies them for these job opportunities. Hearing people have the opportunity to take any kind of job out there, while employment opportunities for deaf people are scarce. Be fair. It's nice to be allies, to unite, support, and advocate for deaf people. Hearing and deaf communities can unite. It's important to collaborate rather than to divide. Right, enough is enough. Sometimes you have to think of the deaf community. Give them opportunities for work. Keep it equal. Yes, agreed. Do you have any thoughts you want to share with the deaf community? I strongly encourage the deaf community to roll up your sleeves and work hard to pursue your passion and your dreams. Reach for the top. Don't give up. Anytime you see discrimination, fight it. Never give up. It's an enormous accomplishment if you fight and win without giving up. It's beneficial for the community. Be strong. I hope that deaf community sees your case being won after fighting it for 16 years as an inspiration. Thank you. Thank you, Jasmin, for interviewing with Deaf What Legacy Project. We want to acknowledge the Canada Council of the Arts for funding this project. Thank you. You're welcome. Thanks for having me here. I enjoyed chatting with you today.